It's another big night of Albion Park Harness Racing this Saturday night. 3 Group 1 features. Brendan Barnes jumps in the hot seat to go through his book of drives, and he's with us now. Brendan, appreciate the time.
No worries, Chris. Thank you.
Race 1, Perfect Cut. This guy's in good form. He is rising in grade, but he's shooting for a hat-trick. How do you rate his chances in the opener?
It probably gets a little bit harder up in grade a bit, sort of drawn a bit worse. He's sort of had the luxury of the inside last start and the luxury of lead, and obviously, yeah, that doesn't look like it'll happen today, but it'll be a good guide to sort of see where he's at.
Okay, the favourite for this race, or likely favourite, is Ronaldo, who's also going for 3 in a row. He's drawn in gate 2. Are you any sort of chance of taking an early shot here?
On sort of first look, I don't think so. There's sort of a little bit of speed there, like Obi-Wan's a brilliant beginner, so I don't really think so. We'll have a closer look a little bit later and sort of see how we go.
He was really good last week. You gave him a great drive out in front. It was a perfectly executed front-running drive, and he duly saluted. How far can this guy go, Perfect Cut?
It'll be interesting to see what sort of versatility he's got. Obviously, his 2 wins have been good, both in front. He sort of was able to dictate how he wanted to, but yeah, it'll be good if we do get the chance to sort of sit him up and sort of it's a bit of a genuine run race, then we'll sort of hopefully get a good guide from that.
What's the gut feel, though? He's got that change-up speed. He's been able to back off and then sprint up strongly over the latter stages that he's passed too. So does he give you that feel that he will adapt?
Yeah, he does, and he's quite highly strung. He gets a bit keen in that, so he feels like if you sort of pulled him out off a helmet, he'd have a bit of speed.
Okay, so that's Perfect Cut. Dangers, obviously, Ronaldo. And Crime Rider, despite that second row draw, he's in really good form and he's probably the class runner of the field.
Yeah, that's for sure, and he can do plenty of work in his runs as well.
Okay, let's go across now to race 3. This is the Group 3 Southeast Derby. It's a key race on Saturday night for a number of reasons. Most importantly, it's the final lead-up for next week's Group 1 Queensland Derby. You've got Gate 1. Leap to Fame will start favourite, fresh off his placing in the Rising Sun last week when he was 3rd. He's drawn Gate 3. Call me crazy, but are you giving yourself a shot here?
Yeah, I think we've got to from the draw. Obviously, Leap to Fame was huge last week in the Rising Sun, and we all know what he's capable of. But you know, our fella, he can run some really good times out in front, and he can definitely make a race of it from the draw.
We're looking at the replay of his effort last week, Danger Zone. He was placed behind My Ultimate Ronnie here. What did you make of that run last week?
We were probably disappointed at first, but sort of looking back on it, it probably wasn't too bad of a run. You know, he sort of had the sort of campaign we've tried to keep him sort of peaking every week, and he had a really good blow after that, and his heart rate was quite high for what he normally is, and since he's trained on through the week really well, so yeah, hoping for some big improvement.
You say disappointed initially. Is that because of the margin between second and yourself, who ended up running 3rd, was so big, or the fact that, you know, Bangkok DJ was almost able to get past you there late in the straight? Yeah,
probably a little bit of both. He was sort of pretty all out that last 100, and I thought we'll probably always beaten from the draw, sort of swap the draws around. I thought you probably would have swapped the result, but yeah, I suppose just probably a mixture of both, and I sort of would have liked him to have sort of loomed as he was going to make a race of it round the corner, but he sort of never really seemed like doing that. But so as I said, he had a really good blow after the race, and I think there'll be a lot of improvement from that.
Okay, well, let's talk about Saturday night. Gate 1 for you. Looking at that front line, is there anything that could really test you early?
Nah, he's got absolutely brilliant gate speed, so yeah, nothing will get across him. He'll be able to hold quite comfortably.
Okay, if Leap to Fame comes up and has a look, are you handing over, or you're holding?
Nah, I'm pretty happy to hold.
Okay, what did you make of Leap to Fame last week in that Rising Sun race?
Couldn't have been any bigger, I think. I think if he leads, he wins. I think he was probably the run of the race, and it was a huge run.
Okay. The fact that he's second up, though, and off a 7-day backup, is there any sort of concerns there? Or is there a potential chink in his armour?
Well, I don't think so. Like, he's a pretty strong sort of a horse. We've seen sort of what he did in the derbies. He improved a lot from the heat to the final, even though we didn't really need to. But I think sort of with the 2,600 metre derby next week, I don't think Green will want to do anything too silly with him this week.
Okay, so you're going to take this race right up to him by the sound of it?
Yeah, that's for sure. We'll be happy to set a statement that if we sort of get the right draw in the Queensland Derby, that we're good enough to make a race of it.
Okay, race number 5. This is the Group 3 4-year-old championship. You stick with Cashed Up. He's in this race off that run last week. I thought he was terrific last week in the Rising Sun against Ladies in Red. How did you break down the performance?
Yeah, he was super. He just sort of steps up every time he needs to step up. He steps up, and So the draw's not the worst this week. Sort of there looks a little bit of speed off the front, and I think if there's any sort of tempo, I think we can just drive him how we've got to, and he'll be running a good race.
He probably hasn't had the credit that he deserves cashed up. As a 3-year-old, he contested the Rising Sun, ran 5th, and then last week as a 4-year-old, the only horse that's gone around in both editions so far. He's run another cracking race for 4th. He's been big in those races, hasn't he?
He has, and it seems to be sort of the harder the race is, the better he goes. And I sort of think that the longer distance sort of races sort of suit him down to the ground more than the mile. Sometimes he has a bit of a flat spot in his races, and it just seems sort of the longer distance races, he's just a little bit better, I think.
All right, so basically the same gate as last week. Do you think this race is going to generate good early pressure?
It does look that way on paper. Big Wheel's a brilliant beginner. Some moment, somewhere, I'll probably want to sort of look to hold up, and it'll be very interesting. And I think if they do go hard early and sort of we get the chance, we could probably nearly even put him into the race.
A number of horses backing up from the Rising Sun are going around in this race. Beyond Delight, though, he was just behind you last week, finishing 5th. You were 4th. What did you make of his run? Is he the horse to beat?
I think so. His run was terrific last week. He carried a flat tyre from the bell and still savaged the line the last couple hundred metres. And I think he's definitely the horse to beat.
Okay, that's going to be a good race, no doubt about it. This is the big one for you. Up next, race 6. This is the Group 1 Golden Girl. You're the reigning Queensland Horse of the Year. You're the defending champion. The inaugural edition last year. Home you sail down the outside as much as 250 to 1. We're not going to get those odds on Saturday night, but interestingly, she's got the same draw as last year. Could you believe your luck when that barrier draw was completed on Monday?
No, well, shattered last year, probably even more shattered this year because of the way she's going, but actually it's probably worse than last year. I think last year we moved into gate 10. This year the emergency's off the front row, so we'll stay in gate 11, but she's just absolutely flying, that mare.
She was terrific last week. You were basically going sideways at the top of the straight, trying to get into clear space, and she still made ground.
She did, and I never turned the whip. I never pulled the earplugs. She just hit the line super and sort of never really even got out. Sort of even her best work in the race was probably 200 metres after the line. She just really savaged the line and felt sensational.
Let's look at history and look back at last year's race. You're able to run down the likes of Amazing Dream and Spellbound, 2 outstanding mares. You've got another outstanding mare drawn in, or likely to come out of gate 1, in Majida. This race looks like it's going to set up completely differently to last year, though, doesn't it? Yeah,
it does for sure, and there doesn't look that early speed that there was last year, and it's probably not all round as strong as it was like last year. There was some brilliant mares, and you had our Princess Tiffany who was in it and sort of wasn't even one of the favoured runners, but this year, it's sort of there's probably not that depth, and there doesn't look that speed. But sort of the way she's going, the way she's feeling, I'm pretty confident if we got her, we can go and sit outside them and still earn money. And one thing, there won't be a 32 quarter this week, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting point you raised, because the lead looks there for the taking for Majida, but then just looking for outside pressure, there doesn't look to be any outside pressure.
No, there doesn't, that's for sure. And sort of last week, Majida was able to just be left alone and just sort of do what she wanted. And there was sort of some others back in the pack that made ground after she was able to sort of sit and sprint as she likes. So yeah, this week I think if we have to, we can do some work and she won't be far away.
I'm going to let you dream here. If you are able to go back to back, how sweet a moment will that be?
Yeah, it'll be absolutely unreal. We'll just be so proud of her. You know, the way she's come back, she's come back bigger and stronger, and she deserves it.
Well, it's going to be a cracking race. She is the defending champion. She is the reigning Queensland Horse of the Year. Race number 7, Deus Ex, lines up here. Is he a chance of leading from gate 2?
I think so. He come out like a gazelle last week. He just with that false start, he actually had a hobble shortener come out, and he really relies on them. He put in a couple funky steps. I let his head go, and he put in a couple steps, and I had to re-grab him and then sort of ask him again. He still wanted to come out a little bit in front of Cruz Bromax. I think had of sort of that not eventuated and the hobble shortener stayed in, I think he would have crossed and sort of been able to find himself a spot. But yeah, we'll just let him sort of slide the gate for sort of 50 or 100. We won't overdo it too much and just sort of see if we can get to the fence.
How much gate speed do you think Firefox has?
He did cross well when he led there 2 weeks ago, but he sort of didn't cross a lot, and it does take a pretty quick horse to hold out Deus Ex.
Okay, well, that's going to be interesting, the whole start there, because if he does lead Deus Ex, he can run a bold race. He was beaten a long way last week, but it's best to overlook that when looking at this week's race.
Yeah, that's for sure. I just overdid a little bit last week. He's actually quite a hard horse to drive. You never really think you're going anywhere near as quick as you are on him, and I didn't feel like I sort of did too much work, but sort of obviously the splits were pretty well as quick as you can physically go around Albion Park, and he's felt really good this week, and his work during the week was, as good as it could be.
Okay, most important question, the pick of your drives right now for Saturday night?
Probably Danger Zone, I think.
Okay. I think this is going to be a good race now, the Southeast Derby. Danger Zone drawn in gate 1, taking it up to Leap to Fame. Brendan, as always, really appreciate the time. We'll see you trackside.
Thanks, Chris.